Shalom, everybody, and welcome to our very special end time series, Decoding Ovadiah and the Last Days. My name is Rabbi Dr. Itzhak Shapira, and I'm the author of the book, The Fall of Edom. What we're doing with you in this series, every week we come together and we're decoding one verse in The Fall of Edom. Again, the series that we put before you is not designed to replace the book, but rather to give you some additional commentary, understanding of the spiritual plan that is brewing before us that will ultimately lead to the coming of the Messiah. The good way to think about the book of Ovadiah is as a spiritual roadmap for understanding the spiritual battle that will take place in the last days. As always, when we read one prophecy, we need to make sure that we are looking at other camera angles, as I explained to you before. So when we read, for example, Ovadiah chapter 1, study Psalm 2, study Zechariah chapter 12, study Psalm 83, studies Ezekiel 38 and so forth. So all of these are different camera angles. Last time we look at verse number 1 and we start to give an introduction for the prophecy of this former Edomite who is giving a warning to the nations about the fall of the nations in the last days. In today's second episode titled Chushim, we're going to be looking through verse 2 in this game plan, the spiritual game plan that God is devising. Now, it's important to understand that throughout all this plot of Satan, Hashem is still in charge, he's still in control, he's still one step ahead of the enemy in understanding what is the plot, and God set him up to his final fall and final destruction. So if you're interested to know what the final fall and final destruction going to look like, read The Fall of Edom. It's available in English, Spanish, French, Korean now, and it's really a very important book for us to read and dive into together. Now, in verse 1-2, we read the following words: Hine katon nataticha bagoim, bazui ata meod. Behold, I will make you least among the nation. You will be greatly despised. Now we have to understand that the enemy of Israel is divided, as I explained to you in the past, into two different entities. One is the entity that is the nations. They are serving as the conduit for the one behind the nations, who is the Sarim. We spoke a lot in the past about the Sarim, and who is the Sarim? The Sarim are the demonic entities that actually control the nations as they come together against Jacob, against Israel in the last days. That's why the final battle will be between Mashiach and between Satan, just as it's going to be between the nations and Israel. On earth, the nations versus Israel. In the heavens is going to be Mashiach against the Sarim of the nation. Now, there are two words that are very important here in the text that I want you to pay attention to. The first word is the word katon, and the other word is the word bazui. The word katon means small, and bazui is more than being despised. Is being despicable. It's something that is so rejected by God. He's talking about the katon and the bazui, again, two words to describe these who put the plan against Israel, because those two are represent the nations, and it's also represent the Sarim behind the nation. Look with me on the screen for a second. This is a prophecy against Edom, but the question that you ask yourself is, why Edom is called Katon? Why Edom is called Bazui? This is a very important question for all of this. And is this indeed a messianic prophecy? We already saw last episode that the entire book of Ovadiah is a messianic prophecy. But still the question becomes, why is it called Katon and Bazui? Remember, I gave you 9 different references for Ovadiah in 9 other different books that you need to study, which are the different camera angle. In order to understand those words to Edom and who is Edom and this messianic prophecy, remember the chief principle that I applied in understanding again and again with you. It's on your screen right now. Try to say it with me. Maasei Avot Siman Labanim. The work of the fathers, or the actions of the fathers, is a sign to the son. Okay, so first of all, we have to understand something, that if we are to understand any verse in Ovadiah 1:2, we have to start with the frame thought that this is already took place in the past, and specifically with Yaakov and Esau. So we always have to backtrack and go backward in order to understand the future forward. This is number one, very important for all of us today. So Maasei Avot Siman Labanim is critical in understanding this verse, where Edom is called least among the nation and will be greatly despised. Again, it's talking about the physical forces of Edom on earth and the spiritual forces in heaven. In a matter of fact, to understand it in context, I wrote this for you as a chief rule, just to keep us on the right track. Listen to what it says. Starting in Ovadiah 1:2, the prophet explained that the fall of the Sarim of Edom above and the nation below who gathered against Jacob. So the Ramad make this point here. And in verse 1-2, he says that the prophet is coming to explain to us that the complete fall of Edom. How is Edom will fall, and who is Edom represent? Again, it's represent both the Sarim above and the nations below. The first thing that is going to fall is the nations below. Okay, with a physical war here on earth, but that is going to lead to the ultimate fall of those who are behind the nations below, which is the Sarim above. So the Ramad explained to us that the entire narrative, starting in verse 1-2 all the way to the very end, is describing the fall of Edom, the plan for the fall of Edom, both the nations and the demons alike. Now, we are right now prophetically in a time that Israel is about to enter into the wars with Iran, with Hezbollah, with many other, the Houthim and so forth. All of those represent the nations below, but the real fight, the real thing that is coming is the one with those above. So that's what we absolutely have to pay attention to in the days. This is very important. Now, in a commentary that you know, Nachal Sorek, remember what I told you, the work on the Father is a sign to the Son. They make a connection to this verse, the fall of Edom. Remember, he's despised. And he says here in the text something interesting. He says he's katon, he's small. And he speaks about what's going to take place, what's going to happen to Esau in the context of the past, of understanding the future. If we want to understand the future, we need to understand Esau physically, the brother of Yaakov, and what took place with him. In Nachal Sorek we read, the commentators explain that during the burial of Yaakov our father in Machpelah cave, Esau delayed the burial of Jacob. Chushim, who is the son of Dan, came and cut Esau's head. Furthermore, his feet were also cut. He stayed only with his body. And this is the reason for the word least, as he was without head and without feed, and he was greatly despised. You see, the word here in Hebrew, in Ovadiah chapter 1, verse 2, greatly despised, he's talking about the future of Edom, both on earth and in heaven. Cut their head and cut their toes. That's going to be 10. That's why this word is used. It's the word katon here in the text. We have to understand what's going to happen and what Chazal understood about this. The word katon, which means he's going to be least, speaking about his physical chopping and his spiritual chopping in the days ahead. Now, what is this story with Chushim have come to explain to us? And a matter of fact, this story that is found in Tractate Sota 13:8, he's giving us the full map of what's going to happen in the future. And I hope today you will dive with me to the past in order to understand the future. Listen to the story as it's recorded in Sota 13:8. Once they reached the cave of Machpelah, Esau came and was preventing them. I want you to pay attention to this. He preventing them from burying Jacob there, his own brother. He said to them, it says, and Yaakov came to Isaac, his father, in Mamre, in Kiryat Arba. The name is Hebron, where Abraham and Itzhak sojourned. And Rabbi Itzhak said, it is called Kiryat Arba because there was 4 couples burying there. Adam and Eve, Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, and Jacob and Leah. Esau said, Jacob buried Leah in this spot, and this spot is mine. We have to understand this. The one thing that Esau always want, the spirit of Esau. You know, we're speaking a lot about replacement theology, and what is replacement theology? We have to understand what at the end of the day is replacement theology. It's a spirit that want to rob Jacob with what has been given to him. So replacement theology, for example, is also a spirit of Esau. Why? Because it seeks to take what's belonged to Jacob, not to just replace it, but to take it forcefully. And according to the Midrash, that is a picture of Ovadiah 1:2. Sota 13, according to the rabbis, is the future that is connected to Ovadiah 1:2. So pay close attention to that. So he came and said to his own nephews, no. It belonged to me. He said to the son of Jacob, no, this belonged to me. Good old uncle Esau said to them, no, you cannot bury Yaakov there. Listen to the continuation of this story as it is recorded in Sota 13. The children of Yaakov said to Esau, you sold your birthright, your rights to Yaakov. Esau said to them, though I sold the birthright, did I also sell the rights to the burial site as an ordinary brother? The brother said to him, yes, you have also sold to Yaakov this right, as it is written, that Joseph stated, my father made me swear, saying, behold, I die. In my grave that I have dug, Kariti, for me, in the land of Canaan, there you will bury me. Genesis 50, verse 5. And Rabbi Yochanan says, in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Yotzadak, the word kira, meaning burial in this verse, is nothing other than the word sale. Mechira, kira, from the word mechira, sharing a similar root, because in the cities overseas, they call the sale kira. In essence, according to Bereshit, chapter 50, verse 5, it was the burial rights that also were passed to Yaakov. But Esau was refusing to do this. Now, you probably wonder, what that have to do with Ovadiah 1:2? Patience, we are getting there. It's important for us to note this. Remember what he says. It says in Ovadiah 1:2 that he's become katon, without head and without feet, stripped from the nations and stripped from the Sarim. Remember that? Well, pay attention to the rest of the story. He delayed the burial of Yaakov, our father. Next slide. It says, Esau said to them, bring the bill of sale to me. You can't prove your claim, meaning they said to him, the bill of sale is in the land of Egypt. They said, and who will bring it? Naphtali will go, for he is as fast as a doe, as it is written. Naphtali is a doe let loose. He give goodly word. Genesis 49:21. Rabbi Abahu say, do not read it as goodly words, rather say it Imrei Sefer, the words of the book, as he returned to Egypt to retrieve the bills of sale. Are you catching it? Esau is trying to cheat now his own nephews from burying their father. So he says, show me the bill of sale. And what ended up happening is they sent Naphtali to bring the words of the book. He was the fastest of the fastest of the fastest of one. But something happened when Naphtali went to bring this bill. Listen to what's the Sotah, Tractate Sotah 13a recorded. It says this. The Gemara relates, Chushim, the son of Dan, was there, and his ears were heavy, meaning he was deaf. He was heavy of hearing. He said to them, what is this? The delaying the burial of Yaakov. Remember, that's his grandfather. And they said to him, this one, Esau, is preventing us from burying Yaakov until Naphtali come back from the land of Egypt with the bills of sale. He said to them, and until Naphtali come back from the land of Egypt, will our father lie in degradation? He was hot-headed. What Chushim did? He took a club and he hit Esau on the head, and Esau's eyes fell out, and they fell on the legs of Yaakov. Yaakov opened his eyes and he smiled, and this is what it is written: the righteous shall rejoice when he see the vengeance. He shall wash his feet in the blood of the wicked. Everybody have to understand what this midrash have to explain to us. That the enemy of Yaakov, they are going to be chopped and become, like it says in Ovadiah 1:2, katon, the head and the feet. He cut both the hand and the feet. The Sarim and the nations will be cut off in these last days. And this is called a Gizra Shava, hermeneutical methodology to explain to us Ovadiah 1:2. And a matter of fact, in Chomat Tanakh, it says the following. It says, the commentary, and I'm just paraphrasing for you from the Hebrew, the commentary explain that the burial of Yaakov took place only after Chushim, son of Dan, meaning the grandfather of Yaakov, cut the head of Esau. And our sages wrote that he's also cut the feet. And that's why Esau is called katon. Remember, beloved, the word katon is used in Ovadiah 1:2. That's called a Gizra Shava. Only two called katon. Esau called katon in the Torah from what Chushim done to it. And Satan here is called katon in Ovadiah 1:2. That's called a Gizra Shava, when the same word speak about the same person. That's what it says, that in the future, the Sitra Achra, Satan, look at this, the Sitra Achra will have their legs broken during the time of the Geulah. And that's why Satan is called Katon Nataticha. Why? Because the Goel Israel is coming. Ve'ifrei Yesha Goel Israel. This person who is going to be coming is none other than Goel, and his name is Chushim, which is amazing. The word Chushim in Hebrew is related to the word Hachisha, the hastener, this hastening that is going to take place. Now, I hope I haven't lost anybody today. This is just such a wonderful shiur. And as always, please share and like. And I just urge you, read this wonderful book in so many languages today, because it will help you to understand what is coming ahead. There are two aspects. There is the head and there is the leg. The leg represents the nations below. The head represents their spiritual head, which is the Sarim. I hope everybody is following this and everybody is understanding. Both is going to be dealt by the Chushim. And Yaakov was resurrected, which speaking about what will take place when Satan and the armies of Satan will be dealt with. Yaakov will open his eyes and will be resurrected. Now listen to what I wrote in the Fall of Edom, and the understanding that the Ramad had. What a brilliant understanding. He said, when God wishes to judge a nation and hand it over to the enemies or persecutors, he removed its heavenly mantle to uproot it, as much as it was respectable before. It's now become forsaken and unprotected, subject to all, when its head cut off and removed, its fullness and his hashgacha from the nation. Remember what I explained to you in the book, The New Hamas, that in order to defeat a nation, you have to defeat the Rosh of the nation. Yaakov had to deal with the Sar of Esav before he dealt with physically Esav. And that's today the truth. Esav represents today all the nations who seek to harm, to replace, and to destroy, and ultimately to annihilate Jacob. So what the Ramad explained to us is, while the nation is under the influence of their demon, and I know for some of you here, you might have never heard this kind of conversation inside Judaism, but that is Judaism. This is Judaism. You have to understand it. That Judaism teaches us this exact concept, that in order to deal with the nations, we have to first uproot their Sar. Why? Because when they have the supervision of the Sar, they're protected to a degree. When you are under a demonic influence, you are protected by the demon to a degree. Therefore, what's going to have to take place is the supervision of the demons have to be lifted up, meaning the destruction of the demon will come, and then the nations will be exposed. If you remember the movie Lord of the Ring, the moment that Frodo took the ring and threw it to the lake of fire, all those demons were exposed, and they perish. All those armies, they perish. And that's a good way for us to understand it and look through all of this, okay? So please make sure that you understand it. So in verse 2, what we're talking about really is the beginning of the lifting of the supervisions upon the nations. Their supervision is destroyed because the Sar is being handled, and in a minute we'll see how. And that means that the nations are now wide exposed for Israel. You see, but here in the text, and we need to make sure that we understand it. There is, he says, "Hine katon ataticha bagoyim, bazui atam." He's thinking he's great. You see, Edom is still thinking he's in greatness. He thinks he have opportunity to win here. But when the supervision is being lifted up, he's nothing but a katon. Why? Because his head. That's what mean a katon. One that his head is cut off. It's mean he have no spiritual coverage. The rabbis connected it to Song of Song 2:15, where it says, "Achzu lanu shualim, shualim ktanim, mechablim, kramim, ukarmenu smadar." Catch to us the little foxes, the ruiners of the vineyard, for the vineyard is in blossom. You see, in the eyes of God, they are just like a tiny little foxes. That's all what they are, a tiny little foxes. And it's interesting that they call here in the text, mechablim. Do you know what the word in Hebrew for mechablim? The word in Hebrew for mechablim is the word terrorists, terrorism. The Hamas is called mechabel. Hezbollah is called mechabel. This is a direct prophecy about terrorism in the last days. They think they're great, and they're doing terror attacks, and they're doing terrorism, and they do all those terrible things against the vineyard. Who is the vineyard? The vineyard represents the Jewish people, brothers and sisters. The vineyards represent Israel. They think they can actually defeat them. But to Hashem, they are little foxes. They try to ruin the vineyard, but they will not be successful because the vineyard belongs to the Lord. We have to understand this. It's called little foxes, but in his mind, you see what he does. Did you see the picture of the tunnels in Lebanon? My goodness, with these rockets and the songs, kill the Zionists, kill the Zionists. And they really believe they can kill the Zionists, but they're just little foxes. And everybody needs to understand that today. We do not need to bow down to little foxes. And that is the real downfall of Edom. He have an elevated opinion of himself. The Ramad explained that he have a syndrome of self-greatness. He thinks he is greater than it is. And the Midrash has explained to us that in his commentary on Song of Song, and it says, and I quote, "The Holy One, blessed be he, said, the wicked Esav, his father called him great, Gadol, as it is stated. He called his elder Hagadol, Esav." In Genesis chapter 27, verse 1, Esav called Hagadol. And I want to tell you something. Who is calling him Hagadol? It is his own father. God help us. God help the Jewish people if we ever respect our enemies with the word Hagadol. That is when Israel can fall. If we give this type of credit to the enemies of Israel, never we should relate to them with the word Hagadol. But here in Genesis 27:1, again, I want to stress it to you that the works of the Father is the signs to the sons. There is a musar here for us that we must take into the account. He called his elder Hagadol. His mother, Sarah, called Esav great, as it stated, the garment of Israel, her elder, or Hagadol's son. It's not mean elder, it's mean the great son, the mighty son, the powerful son. And that's something that Hashem is going to do. He's going to take the Gdulah of the nation. He's going to cut their head, and he's going to bring them to their feet. of the nation of Israel and to the Jewish people, this tiny little nation of Israel, going to see that the head of Esav, like in the case of Chushim. What an incredible thing for us. The Holy One, blessed be his name, said to them, if in your eyes he is great, in my eyes he is small. As stated, behold, I made him small among the nations. Do you see the connection? God said, whatever you, Israel, call great, I am going to call small and insignificant in these last days. I want you to hear what I am telling you today. This is such an amazing shiur for us from Ovadiah 1:2. He called Katon because in the eyes of Hashem he is Katon. The problem is that in the eyes of Jacob he is great. And right now we are in the middle of all those negotiations between us and our lovely neighbors, and we are negotiating with them, and Hamas is not even there. Why? Because we think, oh, what a great Hamas it is. They don't even come to the table, and we're negotiating with them through mediator. God help us, his Jewish people. There is nothing great about Hezbollah. There's nothing great about Hamas. There's nothing great about Tehran, about Iran. They're nothing. They're tiny little foxes to Hashem, and you should understand it. What is the chief spirit that operates? Look at your screen. What is the chief spirit that operates behind the dome? It is the spirit of pride. It is the spirit of arrogance. They are full of themselves. They actually believe that they can destroy the God of Israel and the Messiah of Israel. What a foolishness is to us. And sadly, some of the nations of the world will want to bow down for this. They're just little foxes. But those little foxes are very harmful. Around page 90 and 91 in the book, I told you that those foxes can be destroyed only by one way. Not with peace agreement, not with negotiation, not with giving them the land, not with anything. None of that will suffice. None of that will work. The only way, and I mean the only way, that we can overcome it is with this. Listen to what Chazal said. The descendant of Esav can only be defeated by the descendants of Yosef, according to the Radak. The only way we can defeat Hasatan is by the descendant of Yosef. But you say, wait a second, I don't understand. I thought we are waiting for Mashiach, son of David. I thought we are waiting for Mashiach ben David. If we are waiting for Mashiach ben David, why is it saying here, according to Chazal, that we can be defeating only by Mashiach ben Yosef? What is the relationship, in essence, between the Mashiach, son of Joseph, and the Mashiach, son of David? What is the relationship, and what is the connection today? We must understand it. You see, there is a little conflicted view of the little foxes. The little foxes are little and they are harmless as long as we possess Joseph. As long as we possess Mashiach ben Yosef, who is, by the way, Yeshua. And there is nothing in the halacha that violates the belief in Yeshua as Mashiach ben Yosef, because there is no halacha after Mashiach ben Yosef. So how should we understand this? Rabbi Ginsburg is helping us tremendously in understanding it. So we understand the relationship between Yosef and David. And he says, in relationship to Moses, Joshua, son of Nun, is like the Messiah, son of David. Because the beginning of the redemption process is by Moses, who gathered all of Israel. And in the end is by Joshua, who fight the final war. Messiah, son of Joseph, beginning the process. And Messiah, son of David, he ends the process. Brothers and sisters, I want you to hear it, and understand it. The reason that the Radak says that we have to be defeated by the descendant of Joseph is because Joseph is the beginner of the redemption, where Mashiach ben David is the ender of the redemption. And if Mashiach ben Yosef today is with the nations, and Messiah ben David today belongs to the Jews, what we're really seeing here again is a partnership between the Jew and the Gentile. Maybe, just maybe, that's why the prophet Ovadiah, former Edomite, called it the remnant out of Edom, because he understands this under the prophecy of the Holy Spirit. He understands those things. Redemption has two parts. Some call it first coming and second coming. But a better and more appropriate way to understand this is beginning for the phase and ending. When Yeshua says it is finished, and clearly not everything has been fulfilled, it is because this phase of redemption has been completed. Not the full and complete Geulah. It's foolishness to think that. Just read Jeremiah chapter 31 in understanding that it's not been fulfilled yet. It says the following. Let's read together. The spirit of Joseph has to marry itself to David. Who is Joseph and who is David in the final redemption? That is the question that you have to ask yourself. I know who is Joseph. Joseph have children. The name is Ephraim. Just as David have his own spiritual descendant, the Jewish people. And in the Fall of Edom, I explained to you simply and clearly this connection and this relationship. And I said, and let's read together, the implications are clear. Since Joshua, son of Nun, is a direct descendant of Joseph from the tribe of Ephraim, yet he is also represent Messiah, son of David. Since he fought, the Messiah will have two aspects to join themselves together. Ephraim represents the spiritual descendant of Ephraim, the remnant of Rome. In essence, as Ovadiah called the remnant of Edom, to drench themselves with the power of the Mashiach, son of Joseph. Did you understand this, beloved? Joseph, or Mashiach ben Yosef, is both Joshua, because he's physical descendant of Ephraim, but he's also Messiah, son of David, because he fought the war. The Mashiach have two aspects, Ben Yosef and Ben David. It truly is two appearances of the same Messiah in two different faces, in two different phases. Moshe was one phase and Joshua was another phase. But Joshua, who was from the tribe of Ephraim, represents Ben David, because the Mashiach is both. As it says in Isaiah chapter 9:5. A child is born to us, a son has been given to us, but his name will be called. His name is singular, but he has two names, child and a son. How a child and a son can be both? Because he is one with two different appearances. You remember the story that I shared with you a moment ago with the Chushim? It even gives us a greater clue of this revelation. I hope today you really gain understanding of what this is all about. It's about the coming of Ben David, who will cut the head of the serpent one last time, and the nations will be exposed. And Israel will become the nation of priests that he called us to be. Listen to this. This is related to the Chushim story that we read a little bit earlier in Sotah 13. The Gemara explained what honor was accorded to the family of Yaakov, as it is written. And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond the Jordan. And they were wailed with a very great soul wailing, and made a mourning to the father for 7 days. That's a Shiva, Genesis 50:10. The word atad is the name of box-thorn bush. And does a box-thorn bush have a threshing floor? Thorns are not collected and eaten. Rabbi Abahu said that that's teaching that they surrounded the casket of Jacob with a crowns. What was around Jacob's burial place? Crowns. And what was kind of crowns? A crowns of thorns. What did Yeshua wore? Yeshua wore a crown of thorns. We have to understand that everybody came around the crown of thorns. But not only the descendant of Jacob came around the crown of thorns. Who else do you think came around the crown of thorns? You see, that's important to understand this. If we understand how the cutting will take place, the chopping of the enemy and who it is. Look what it says. Next slide. Like the threshing floor that is surrounded with box-thorn, because the children of Esau and the children of Israel and the children of Keturah all came to the burial of Jacob. Who is going to come to the burial of the crown of thorns? Who is going to come around the crown of thorns? It's going to be the children of Esau and the children of Ishmael. It's going to be again a remnant from the Muslim world and a remnant from the Christian world who are going to come together. You better believe it, friends, that there is going to be an alliance between the Muslim world and the Western Christian world against Jerusalem. Why did they come to the burial place of Jacob? Because they respect Jacob and they love Jacob and they love Jacob's children. It's a prophecy for us today. Is that the reason that they are going to come for this final ingathering? No! The gathering around Jacob is what's known as Gog and Magog. Look at what it said. Initially, they all came to wage war with the family of Jacob. But once they saw the crown of Joseph, the viceroy of Egypt, hanging on the casket of Jacob, they all took their crown and hung it on the casket of Jacob. A sage thought 36 crowns were hung on the casket of Jacob. This was the great honor accorded to the family of Jacob. You see what is going to happen in the last days, beloved. And we have to understand it. The nations of the world are going to come to fight against Jacob, against the Jewish people. But at this point, they will see Messiah thorn, crown of thorn from the heaven. And when they will see the crown of thorn with the heaven, they will bow down. They will be destroyed, and the remnant will bow down to the 36 crowns that were hung on the casket of Jacob, the crown of thorn. This is the meaning beyond verse 2 today that we are learning together. The nations are going to come. They are going to wage war. But Israel will win it because they will have the power of Joseph, who is also a manifestation of the power of David that is revealed to them now. They will know him as David, but they will also recognize him as Yosef. Those will be those 36 crowns of Joseph on the appearance of Mashiach ben David. I hope you enjoy verse 2 today with me as much as I love being with you. Share it, like it, and please read the book. Next time, verse 3. God bless you all and shalom.